the new boat motor. It's about 95% done. So I'll take you through what I did to the original little Sea Dog motor that I had, that I bought on eBay about 3 years ago. It was time for some improvements, time for a new power head, and it worked great on my pontoon boat. So here is kind of what I did. This is the same jerry can with primer pump that was on the other motor. The only difference is that this one plugs into the bottom of the tank as opposed to the lid where it was filled, which is nice. This is a really nice little aluminum camping tank. It's meant for fuel, so I'm happy about that. Let's see, I changed the plug, cut off had a little handle on it, and put in a wing nut. And of course the wing nut, the bolt on it is filed down here. I'll take it out, and yeah, here's pretty much the wing nut. I epoxied a long spacer nut into the lid, and that screws in there. And once you fill it up with a little primer pump, you tighten this up, it seals, and then the fuel, it draws the fuel on its own. That's how it worked on my other motor. Seems to work decent. Okay, got a new fuel tank grommet. The hole is the same size as on the little Honda GX35. It's the same grommet. I drilled the hole the same size, put in new fuel lines, added some springs that were laying around, stretched them out to keep the fuel line from kinking. So that's the fuel system. Got a air cleaner for the carb. It came with a kit from Amazon. The kit, the link to it is under the video. So that worked out good. Did put a new spring on it because the original spring that it came with is like a pen spring. It didn't bring this all the way back up, so your idle would always be a little more than you'd set it, and you'd have to go in with your hand and bring it up to normal idle. Change the plug out from whatever the Chinese had in there. I got NGK. Let's see, let's start with the leg. Okay, let's start with the leg. Okay, drilled out the second hole here because it didn't have one. This one was drilled out, this one wasn't. Retapped them both in 1/4 inch. Changed the bearing in here. Put in all new 80 weight gear oil. Everything was okay. The seals, nothing leaks. Everything seems to work fine, but I'll keep an eye on it in the summer. Built a rudder for the motor because I'm on a little pontoon boat and they track horribly through the water. If one pontoon has more air in it than the other, then it tends to list to the other side, and so it's nice to have a good rudder on this thing. Yeah, it was all built and bolted together out of aluminum. I don't have a TIG welder at the moment, and I don't have a machine shop at my disposal. So I just used aluminum flat bar, and that came together. It'll get painted eventually with trim clad, and it'll be black like the rest of it. This I just taped up here. It's the same yellow kind of pipe. I just taped it up to see how it would look in black, and I think that's what it's gonna be. There's a second bearing up here that I changed. Bearings are common. I bought them at Lowe's of all places. It's a water pump bearing, and it's sealed with steel plates on either side, which is kind of nice because it's designed for a water pump, which this is in the water. Well, this part isn't in the water, but the whole thing's in the water. Anyways, rebuilt the entire leg, re-greased everything, cleaned everything. It's like new again. That bearing was done. It was grinding and making all kinds of noises. It was time for that to go. I did put a custom spring into the clutch because the motor itself is meant for a pocket bike, and the spring in the clutch was kind of tough. It wanted lots of RPM to open up. The clutch looks like it looks like the old brake shoes that cars used to have in the rear. And anyways, to get them opened up, I I put everything together with anti-seize and used a weaker, smaller, well, a weaker spring so they would open up faster. So pretty much you touch the gas just a bit and the motor starts, the impeller starts going, as opposed to having to rev the crap out of it just to get the clutch to grab and spin the motor, which I tested on my other power head. Got that to work. There is, I will have to include in the links, there is an actual spring that's weak enough to use for a boat motor application, but I'll have to look up the part number and put it on the video. Okay, the exhaust is off of Amazon. It's for a scooter, for some sort of a little moped deal, bike conversion. Okay, now if you buy this exhaust for a scooter or whatever application you're using it for, keep this in mind. This is what the weld was like when I hacksawed it apart, because I didn't need the muffler part of it. I just needed the resonator. Okay, here's my battery pack for the motor. I've got 4 little 12-volt batteries all wired together to give me 12 volts. Here's the starter solenoid. The charger is attached right to this battery. I have to put some tape over it. This is all going to get all taped up solid because it goes into one of the bags on the pontoon boat and it powers my fish finder, the starter on this motor, and a camera. So yeah. Anyways, the starter on the motor is amazing. Here's the wiring. This is where it's running to. And let's see. Here's the positive. Here's the negative for the starter. It is amazing. This is just amazing. Here, you push this little yellow button here. And you start right up. Which is nice because I'm on a pontoon boat, so turning around to the way back, it's kind of a ways away from me. That's why the tiller handle is so long. I have another button here on order. It's got the emergency stop on it that goes to your wrist. Plus it's got another stop button right here, which is going to be great because I won't have to pull this thing off every time I want to stop the motor. It's just like the starter button there. The throttle I kept original because it seems to work good. You know, I've got 2 hours braking time on this motor at idle right now. The rest will be done under load on the lake. The manufacturer sent instructions for 10-hour braking before it starts running decent. I put this on here because this is where I rest the motor in the car. I have like a pail dealie that I cut down where I put the motor so it sits on this side. The tank doesn't touch the pail, but if there is a gas leak or something, it goes into the pail. It's like a cut down 5-gallon pail, goes in there as opposed to all over the car, which is kind of nice. Usually I don't have gas in it, but hey, you know, you never know. Better in the car or better in the pail than in the car where it would stink and stain and stuff. Anyways, the pull starter works really great as well. Tried that. That'll be for emergencies. Anyways, it's super light. I can pretty much carry it around with one hand. Got the 5-liter jerry can, which I can mix my gas in and use that. The battery sits in one of the pontoon bags with the fish finder because it's powering that and my fish cam. And I'm not sure what else I don't think I've left anything out. Yeah, I put this on with copper as a third mounting point and it seems to disperse the heat because I had it running outside for another hour today and this didn't even get warm, so I'm happy about that. I was a little worried that since I've got the electricals running there, which are going to get redone anyway, this is just kind of a mock-up right now for the starter and to get everything kind of plumbed in where I wanted it. As far as the wiring for the starter goes, I used booster cables, just a cheap set of booster cables because it wanted lots of power. I tried the wire that came with it. They kind of give you one. It gets too hot. It wants a nice thick gauge wire because it's electron hungry. It wants a good jolt of current to turn this thing over, but it starts every time on the button, which is awesome because now I don't have to stretch and reach around and try and just about get on my knees to try and get the motor started in the middle of a lake on a little pontoon boat. It's a fish cat IR. You guys have probably seen it on my YouTube. It seems to work really great in the pail. I had it running today and I gave it a little gas and it seems to have bent the 2 screws that I have into this 2x4, trying to get away. Well, it wants to go. It wants to go on the water. Being a 2-horse compared to the 1.3 that I had on the pontoon boat before, this thing should rocket. Well, as much as it can go on a little tiny pontoon boat. But anyways, the exhaust is great. It's a lot quieter, and there's no 2-stroke smoke spewing out of here into your face, which is kind of nice. I'm thinking of trying out smokeless 2-stroke oil, but I'm going to break it in with this stuff and then go from there. Anyways, there's been the project for the last month. There's the whole thing. There's videos of it running. I had the phone like pretty much right up to it over here outside, so you guys can actually get the noise impression of how much noise this thing makes on the lake or just idling in a bucket. It'll be quieter on the water because there'll be more water to soak up the sound, and it's all wide open, so it'll be a lot quieter. I had it running kind of in a corner where the sound could bounce back. But anyways, that's the little motor. It's the same size as a Hangkai 3.5, 49 cc's, except it's not water cooled yet. Anyways, thanks for watching, and have a great day on the water. Tight lines, everybody.